We go through this every single time Republicans control the House. You guys can't pass legislation. You can't govern.
After Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and MAGA Republicans publicly humiliated themselves and nearly triggered a government shutdown, which was averted thanks to Democrats, several fed-up CNN hosts took the time to brutally roast prominent Republicans to their faces on live TV over their party's inability to govern. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. As you know, for context, one of the biggest news stories, the biggest political news story of the past several weeks, is that we almost had, once again, a painful and unnecessary government shutdown thanks to the bad faith and brinksmanship of the Republican Party and the incompetence of Donald Trump and the incompetence and inappropriate oligarchic influence of Elon Musk. But as the other near government shutdown misses have ended, it's because we were rescued by Democrats. Democrats acted like the adults in the room. Republicans finally folded. A continuing resolution, which is a temporary government funding measure, was signed into law by President Biden. But as a consequence of this, it seems like CNN hosts are rightly being increasingly fed up with the bad faith and brinksmanship and incompetence of the GOP under Trump's leadership. And several prominent Republicans, including commentator Scott Jennings, a MAGA stooge, a very smug MAGA stooge who is routinely fact-checked and humiliated on CNN. He was called out for this as well as elected Republicans, but we'll get to them in a moment. Let's start with Scott here, being put in his place.
But even before you have full control, you have control of the House. You guys show that you can't even govern when you have control of one House. I can't wait to see what's going to happen when you have control of
Where's
all.
Where's your party? You control two of the three legs of the stool. Where's the president?
Well,
Where's Schumer?
as you know, obviously, all these bills have to emanate from the House. That is actually the way our laws function. And so the House is responsible for sending a bill to the Senate. Now, the House is not able to send a bill to the Senate because Republicans can't even get on board. Because Elon Musk decided he was going to send some mean tweets out and everybody started to cower. And they decided to cut and run from a bipartisan deal that would have actually been set and done, and the Senate would have voted on it by now, and we all would have been home.
Yeah, and Scott Jennings, who has never encountered a liberal commentator that he hasn't been eager to smugly interrupt, he's just reduced to silence over this. And even, where's President Biden? Where are the Democrats in the Senate? He tries to offer that as a lame excuse, only to be fact-checked. Well, it's the House that generates this sort of government funding legislation. The Senate can't take the first step, not constitutionally. It's up to this particular chamber, and this particular chamber is controlled by your party. Your party had a bipartisan government funding law or government funding continuing resolution negotiated with the Democrats, so the work was done, and then your party once again screwed it up. That's on you, Scott. That's on your party. Democrats are blameless in this. As a matter of fact, Democrats should be thanked because they were the ones who not only negotiated in good faith with a bad faith party, but once your party self-sabotaged and screwed it up, they came to your rescue again. You should be on bended knee thanking Democrats who are better at governing objectively than the Republican Party. But he won't do that. Unfortunately, this attitude is also being taken up by elected Republicans like Mike Lawler, who is supposedly a moderate. But he had a rough time, too, because Jake Tapper, one of CNN's most prominent hosts, was even more blunt than the previous CNN host, Julie Roginski, I believe, even more fed up than her and was more blunt and told Mike Lawler to his face about his party's number one problem.
At this moment,
I certainly understand what you're saying, but at the same time, with all due respect, sir, you're going after the top Democrat in the Senate and a lame duck Democratic president. Your conference, the House Republican Conference, we go through this every single time Republicans control the House. You guys can't pass legislation. You can't govern.
Respectfully, Jake, we've actually passed a lot of
spending legislation, government funding legislation. I'm talking about government funding legislation.
We've passed a lot of legislation that has languished down the hall in the Senate.
Government funding legislation. Every time we go through this. Respectfully,
we passed a number of appropriations bills through the House floor. We passed all 12 through committee. We couldn't even get to a conference committee because Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats, again, passed exactly 0 bills. So, yeah.
So, again, let's actually address this. Funny, I found a really handy chart. Visual aid is always fun. Let's start with this, which is, again, Jake Tapper fed up. Like, listen, you guys suck at governing, and they do. I'm not here to say that Republicans are without talent. Elected Republicans are without talent. They're clearly not. They won the election. They're pretty good at winning elections when you consider how unpopular their views are. They're very good at entrenching power. What Republicans have done in my state, North Carolina, after they lost the 2024 election, what they're doing with their supermajority while they still have it because they're about to lose it, to entrench their power, they're very, very good at that. But when it comes to governing, when it comes to actually producing material benefits for their constituents or for the constituency writ large, they suck at it, okay? And Jake Tapper's also right that every time we run into a government shutdown, the common denominator, Republicans controlling the House. Steve Ratner of NBC pointed this out. Makes you wonder, what does every government shutdown in the last 30 years have in common? Well, it's not the Senate. It's not control of the Senate because sometimes during these shutdowns or threats of shutdowns, Republicans have been in control of the Senate, but sometimes Democrats. It's not even in control. It's not control of the White House. Sometimes Democrats have been in the White House, other times Republicans as well. Common denominator is Republican control of the United States House of Representatives. When there was a shutdown under President Clinton, it was because Newt Gingrich and the Republicans controlled the House. Twice, actually. 5 days and then 21 days. Under President Obama in September of 2013, Republicans controlled the House. Twice. I mean, look at this. Jesus, look at this. Republican unified control of the Senate and the House and the White House in 2018 and January 2018 and December 2018. Republicans controlled the House. They had unified government and still could not prevent a government shutdown. So Jay Tapper's right. Their party objectively sucks at governing. They just do. I'm sorry. You can agree with the Republicans on culture issues, on economic issues. You are entitled to your opinion. We can still disagree. I mean, I do disagree with that. But you're entitled to do that. But it's just simply a fact that when it comes to actually governing, the Democratic Party, for all its faults, is the vastly superior governing party. And Mike Lawler, that elected Republican who's supposedly a moderate, right? He represents a swing district in New York. He just had a bad day, period, on CNN because he then was relentlessly fact-checked, politely but firmly, by Caitlin Collins during a different interview as this government shutdown drama unfolded, and he didn't like it either.
I will always do what I think is right, which is why, to me, the right answer here was to keep the government funded, and why I find it so jarring that every single Democrat except two voted to shut the government down, not because
but
they
so
didn't
did 38
agree,
House Republicans,
not because they didn't. Yeah,
Caitlin, one sitting right here.
Caitlin,
totally different reasons.
Totally different reasons.
But you still voted the same
but Caitlin,
way.
here's what I think you're missing.
I know 38 House Republicans voted
here's
against
what you're
this.
missing.
You're counting on
Right, and
Democrats.
197 Democrats voted against it.
But the deal that they had
and the reality
negotiated was blown up yesterday.
They negotiated a deal that included a lot of pet projects that they wanted.
But isn't that your problem with
fact
Speaker
is-
Mike Johnson, who negotiated that deal with them?
No, look, when you
though?
have a
But
House
a Republican
Republican
House
majority,
Speaker
let me answer,
negotiated
please.
that deal, right?
Would you like me to answer, or you want to debate it? House Republican majority, Senate Democrat majority, Democrat in the White House. Where has Joe Biden been in any of these discussions? What did Chuck Schumer do in any of these discussions? Nothing. So you want to just focus on House Republicans. We put a bill on the floor today to keep the government funded. Yes, some of my colleagues voted no. Some of my colleagues have never voted for a CR and never voted to increase the debt ceiling. That's their right. But the fact is, many Democrats have always voted to pass a CR and increase the debt ceiling. And the reason they didn't do that today is because they don't want to lose leverage in the new Congress.
Can I ask you,
That, to me,
though?
is absolutely pathetic.
But also,
So much to unpack from Mike Lawler there. So much to unpack. So, number one, again, he goes back to what Scott Jennings was talking about in the first clip. Like, oh, where's President Biden? Where's Senate Democrats? Sorry, the onus was on you because Democrats negotiating in good faith a continuing resolution. We did our part, and it was agreed to until Donald Trump's boss, Elon Musk, torpedoed it externally, and then Trump rushed, to catch up. Yeah, exactly. I co-signed this. And then the whole deal collapsed, and you just wanted Democrats to just take what you were going to get. Like, hey, listen, I know we negotiated in good faith, but actually, no, at the 11th hour, we're not going to do this, and you're just going to take what I give you. Well, no, especially when, again, Democrats control the Senate and they control the White House. Mike Lawler wants Republicans with their chaotic, incompetent, narrow majority to be the tail that wags the dog. Well, no. You don't have the power to dictate terms to Democrats in the Senate and Democrats in the White House. You only have the power to kind of fuck everything up, which is what Republicans did. And Democrats had to come to their rescue. It's a fundamental math. This is the issue that Mike Johnson finds himself in constantly because he wants to assert dominance over the Democrats, but right now he's not in a position to do so. He can't. The math is not on his side. And so now Mike Lawler says, well, okay, it's not on us, it's on these other parties. Well, no, we met you halfway. We're not obligated to meet you all the way. You're obligated to meet us halfway. And you don't want to do that. Now, Lawler himself actually probably does because he is, again, relatively speaking, a moderate, but he also has to defend the team and try to take the heat off him and his party. But he and his party are responsible in totality for all of it. And then the complaints at the end about the debt ceiling. Well, when Donald Trump wants a debt ceiling increase, Democrats should have voted for it. It's okay when Republicans don't. Like, that's fine. That's their right. Well, Democrats have the right to not vote for a debt ceiling increase. See how he does that? Well, my party has the right to not do this, but Democrats don't have the right to not do it. No. Democrats and Republicans have the right to vote on these things however they want. And then he says, okay, well, they're doing it for political reasons. You all do it for political reasons all the damn time. And then it goes back to, again, the hypocrisy. Mike Lawler wants Democrats to behave in ways that Republicans don't. He's like, me and my party should be able to do whatever we want and use the debt ceiling as leverage. You guys can't do that. That's not fair. No, it is fair. And I'm fine. I'm happy that Democrats have done this because Democrats should continue to do it to teach Republicans a lesson. We're not going to have two different sets of rules. If you don't like the debt ceiling being used as leverage to extract political concessions, which I hope is what's coming once Donald Trump becomes president, then don't ever do it to us. Sign a blood oath saying that you're, number one, you're sorry for your moral inferiority having done it in the past. And number two, swear that you'll never do it again. And then we'll talk. But that's not what they want to do. They want the right to use the debt ceiling however they damn well please. And they want Democrats to do the opposite. And I'm glad that Democrats didn't take the bait. Democrats said, no, we're not raising the debt ceiling. We don't have to do it now. You can raise it when Trump becomes president and Republicans take over the Senate and you still have your House majority. You can try it next year. And if we block you or threaten to block you for political concessions, that's all right. I hope that's the attitude that Democrats take with it. Because the only way we will ever actually make progress in this country, one of the things that has to change are the different standards to which the parties are held. Right now, the Republicans are graded on a curve. They've done a very, very good job of making it so that the media and others grade them on a curve and excuse their, political shenanigans. The only way Republicans will ever possibly learn and act in good faith is if Democrats take some of that energy, use it against them successfully, give them a taste of their own medicine. And I hope that's exactly what will happen. So anyway, the government shutdown, again, averted, but I'm glad that these fed up CNN hosts took the time to call out these Republicans to their faces on live TV. We need more of that, please. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.